Hello, welcome to another Marlene Nobre 2026 series. It's very nice to have you all here with us once again, the first Sunday of the month. Today we have a special guest. Let me call in. Our guest today is Rafael Caldas. Hello, Rafael. It's a pleasure to have
Hello.
you here with us.
Hello, Muni. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you again, another year joining this initiative.
Yes, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's very nice to bring all these material every year about different author to present to the public the work by people who gave very important contribution and left this contribution in the form of books, especially to those who want to learn more about the reality of life and the spiritual world. So today, Rafael will be talking to us about healing as magnetic cure. So before he starts, we will just briefly introduce, for those who don't know, Rafael. He's been working within Spiritism for a long time and also for quite some time in the United Kingdom. Rafael was born and raised in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and since childhood, he was a member of the Spiritist Center Antonio de Aquino and Leon Denis. So he lives in London, he's a member of the Spiritist Society of London, and also a former trustee of the British Union of Spiritist Societies. Just to say very brief words about Rafael, and then use our time for his wonderful talk that I know he always brings us some very interesting information, the way he digests the books and also the way he presents them. So, Rafael, I'll hand it over to you. I'll be in backstage, so just give me a shout if you need me. Okay,
All right.
good.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you,
see you
Muni.
shortly.
Thank you. Let me, first of all, say thank you to Muni. Thank you to Elsa for the opportunity of being here once again. I take these invitations as super special because it gives me an opportunity to read a book or study something that perhaps I didn't give too much attention before. And again, another year, and it's the same thing. Marlene Nobre is a name that I know of, I've heard about, I've probably read a couple of books, but giving the chance of truly understand her contributions, the study, what she brought to us is being a gift for me. And today, what we're going to talk about, the book that I was tasked to cover is this one here. I have a couple of covers here in the slide for us, and both of them are in Portuguese. I'm not sure we have this book translated to English, but nowadays you can find anything with AI in the internet. So if you type in the title of the book in Portuguese and ask for a translation version, you can probably find it one way or another. So well, I'm not calling the name of this conversation today as the same title as the book, because I want us to have a different type of reflection upon the subjects that she's bringing to us. So as Munir said, one of the translations of the title is "Healing as Magnetic Cure," and when we talk about that. An infinite possibility of questions open up for us. So why don't we start then? Right. I would like to begin by asking you to imagine two rooms. In the first room, there is someone who is ill. The room is clean. The medication has been given correctly, as expected. The professionals are competent. Everything that technically needs to be done has been done. But everyone is in a hurry. They go in, they do what they need to do very quickly. People enter the room without really looking at the patient. They speak about the person, then instead of speaking to the person. They might check machines, adjust pillows, write something down, and quickly leave. Now, let's think about a second room, a different room. In this second room, the medical treatment is exactly the same. Same medication, same equipment, same diagnosis. But someone enters, looks into the patient's eyes, and says, "I'm here." They listen without rushing. They speak very calmly. Perhaps they told the person, they took the person's hand. Perhaps they said a prayer. Perhaps they just remain silent, but their silence communicates safety rather than abandonment. See the difference between these two? What is this difference? How can you tell what feels differently? It's not the medicine. It's not the diagnosis. It's not the treatment. It's not the medicine. It's not any of that. It is the quality of presence. Most of us have experienced this difference. Who cannot say that they've met people that when they are in their presence, it calms us before they say anything? Or we meet others that when we are in their presence, we become tense before even saying anything, just because you know they're going to be there or they are there. How many times have you not entered a room and immediately you sensed that an argument was happening? We have received a message containing only a few words, but somehow we felt there was something behind it. Maybe hostility, maybe affection. So I want to start with a simple proposition. Human beings do not communicate only through information. We communicate through presence. Marlene Nobre's book, the Healing as a Magnetic Cure, invites us to take this proposition seriously. Not merely poetically, not as a comforting metaphor, but as a possible component of the healing process. The book asks questions that initially sound very practical. What is given during the healing process? How is it given? Who gives? Who receives? But behind those questions, there's something that lies much, much bigger. There's a much bigger question. What passes from one human being to another human being whenever we meet? And that is the main question I want to explore tonight with you. But before I go further, you hear me saying about healing or laying on of hands, imposition of hands, or pass. I'm going to use the word pass a lot. I'm using all of these phrases, all of these names, meaning the same thing. Right? Some spiritists, some spiritualist centers also call it all of these names. I'm going to use them interchangeably. But before I actually talk about pass itself, it is helpful for us to understand the perspective of Marlene Nobre, because she was not someone who approached healing only from a religious or theoretical position, right? If you've seen the other talks, you will know that she was a physician. She had a specialization in gynecology and cancer prevention. She became a big figure around the development of this medical spiritist movement in Brazil. Her work repeatedly brought medicine, spirituality, ethics, and the care of the person as a whole, all of the aspects, into conversation with one another. That background matters. She understood the importance of diagnosis, treatment, medical knowledge, and professional responsibility. She also understood that a human being cannot be reduced to organs, lab results, symptoms. A person who is ill is also experiencing fear. They may be experiencing loneliness. They may be questioning the meaning of their life. How much guilt are they carrying? Anger, grief, hope, faith, despair. Medicine will be able to treat the body brilliantly, but we will still leave some of these questions untouched. That's when I enter spirituality, or spiritism specifically. And that's also because spiritism, spirituality, can never be used to dismiss medicine. And I think that's an important item. Medicine must also be careful not to dismiss the human needs for meaning, relationship, and hope. Marlene Nobre lived at the intersection of all of these items. Her book draws principally upon the spiritist tradition of Kardec and the work associated with Chico Xavier. It presents the past not only as a source of spiritual comfort, but as a form of magnetic assistance in which thought, intention, human vital energies, and spiritual cooperation are believed to participate altogether. Tonight, however, I do not want to simply repeat the book's explanations. Instead, I want to consider 3 lessons that came out of it. First one, the past begins before their hands are raised. Second one, healing is not something one person delivers to another. It is a relationship. And the third one, cure and healing are not always the same thing. Let's start with the first one. The past begins before hands are raised. I have a basic question for us to think about, to answer, right? What is a spiritist pass or healing, laying on of hands, and so on? For anybody who is unfamiliar, the simplest description that I brought for us is a pass is a brief spiritual practice in which a person, usually in an atmosphere of prayer, quiet concentration, places or moves their hands near another person with the intention of offering spiritual and magnetic assistance. Usually there is no contact, there should be no spectacle, there's no need for dramatic movement. The recipient normally remains seated, calm, receptive, but the hands are only the most visible part of the practice. The essential action, according to Spiritist understanding, involves thought, intention, prayer, and the transmission or combination of what we call fluids. But these are spiritual fluids. They're not talking about bodily fluids here. A different type. Let's clarify the language, right? When the book uses the word magnetic, it's not referring simply to magnetism that makes a compass move or to attach a magnet to the fridge. It is using the language of the Spiritist and magnetic traditions to describe a subtler, vital, or spiritual influence. Allan Kardec distinguished 3 possible forms of magnetic action. Those are the 3 ones here highlighted in the slide. Human magnetism, which involves the resources of the incarnate person. Spiritual magnetism, attributed to the action of spirits, the ones that do not have the body, the physical body like us. And mixed magnetism, in which the human being acts as an intermediary between the spiritual assistance and the person who needs. Within this model, the pass is generally understood as a mixed magnetism. The pass giver contributes something of themselves, their attention, their intention, vital resources, and their spiritual benefactors contribute assistance of another order. And the recipient is not just an object. They're not just sitting there. They participate through their mental and emotional condition. Their openness, prayer, and willingness to receive help are super important. This means that the past is not best understood as one human battery charging another human battery. A person is not a mobile phone, as you probably realized by now. Healing is not electricity transferred through fingers. A better metaphor might be an orchestra, and I really like this metaphor when I came across it. The past giver is one instrument. The recipient is another. The spiritual helpers form part of the wider ensemble. Prayer creates a shared direction. Thought gives rhythm and quality to the whole process. The music does not belong to any one participant. It emerges from cooperation. An experiment in attention. Let's try something very simple. You do not even need to close your eyes, but if you can indulge me in this trial. For a few seconds, think of someone you love deeply. Do not analyze the relationship, just bring that person to your mind. Remember their face. Remember a moment when you wanted them to be safe and happy. Thought about it? Do you have the person in your mind? Good. Now let's pause for 5 seconds. Notice what has happened inside you. Perhaps your facial expression changed. Perhaps your breathing changed. Maybe you felt warmth, tenderness. Maybe you felt sad. Now think briefly of a difficult conversation. Let's change that. Something that was unresolved, an injustice or an argument. Give it a thought. Let's pause for a couple of seconds. Again, what happens? Do you notice any difference? The event's not happening here. The other person is not physically present. And yet, just the thought has already produced an effect within you. Thought is not an abstract activity without consequences. It affects our posture, breathing, attention, emotions, behavior. In the Spiritist teaching, presented by Marlene Nobre, thought does more than affect the thinker. Thought also gives direction and quality to the fluid, to the energy involved in the past. This book, this leads us to another important lesson, which is the next one. That's the next lesson that connects the element about the thought. The past begins long before the past giver lifts their hands. It begins in the condition of the person. It begins in their intention. It begins in how they have been living. It begins in the feelings they cultivate. It begins in whether they genuinely desire to serve or merely desire to feel important. The hands do not hide the heart. Imagine that someone performs every movement perfectly. Their hands are in the correct position. They have memorized every technique. They know exactly how many seconds they should take in each movement. But inside, in their minds, in their hearts, they are irritated. They are thinking about an argument. They want everyone to notice how spiritually gifted and uplifted they are. They are judging the person who is there, receiving the pass, asking for help. Now imagine someone else. The opposite. Their technique is very simple. They may know only how to remain prayerful, place their hands calmly above the recipient receiving the pass or the healing, but they are humble. They genuinely wish to help. They are not seeking any recognition. They do not believe that the power around that process, around that little ritual, so to speak, belongs to them. Which person between these two is better prepared to serve? The book continually moves us away from that obsession with external technique and towards the quality of the inner instrument, which is not new. Kardec had made this argument when he was discussing healing mediums. He taught, since the beginning, that the quality of the human contribution is influenced by the physical and moral condition of the person transmitting it. In his analogy, the condition of the vessel affects what passes through it. Jesus taught that as well. This does not mean that a pass giver must be perfect. Right? If were perfection to be required, there would be no pass givers. It means that the person must be sincere about their own improvement, be trying. The pass is not a reward given to morally superior people. It is a responsibility accepted by imperfect people who are trying to become better. Here, the subject begins to leave the past room and enter everyday life. And I think that's the main challenge for everyone, to be honest. Because whether or not we formally give passes, we work with that type of activity, we all carry something into a room. We all transmit an atmosphere. We all leave people slightly calmer or more agitated, slightly more hopeful or discouraged, respected or diminished. So perhaps the first question the book asks us is not, can I give a pass? But instead, what have I been giving to people through my presence? Healing the relationship. That's the second great lesson in the book. That healing is not a product. We are very used to this transactional culture. Right? That's the society we live in. We buy a product, we expect a result. We press a button, we expect a response. We take a pill and we expect the symptom to disappear. Of course, we are an automatic, we are an autopilot. So this can lead us to approach any type of pass or healing moment in the same way. I have a problem, I will receive a pass, the pass will remove the problem. But spiritual healing does not operate like a vending machine. You do not just put the coin in, press the button, that's it. The pass giver does not own the healing, as we have already touched. The recipient does not purchase an outcome. The spiritual world is not a delivery service that responds to our demands on an app. The pass is a relationship of cooperation. Who gives? At first, the obvious answer appears to be the pass giver. But Marlene and Nobre will take us into a much more nuanced answer. The incarnate person participates, but does not act alone. Within the Spiritist understanding and teachings, benevolent spiritual helpers may combine their resources with those of the pass giver and direct them according to the needs of the recipient. This protects the pass giver from a very important temptation, believing that themselves are the source of healing. The moment someone begins saying, I cure this person, my energy is exceptionally powerful, only now I can give the pass that you need, then we need to become very cautious. That is a red flag. Healing work without humility easily becomes a form of power. And spiritual power can be much more dangerous than ordinary power because it may disguise pride as a service. The genuine pass giver does not say, look at what I can do. They will say inwardly, may I be useful. That is a completely different attitude. One places the ego at the center. The other places the need of the suffering person at the center. Who receives? Again, the recipient also participates. But this idea must be handled with great compassion. I think this is critical in this sense. To say that the recipient participates does not mean that a person remains ill because they lacked faith, or it doesn't mean that the suffering is their fault. It doesn't mean that someone who does not improve has resisted God, or that God does not want them to be cured. All these explanations are very cruel, and they turn suffering into an accusation, making it even worse. The recipient's participation is something gentler. It means that healing is more than something happening to us. We can cooperate with it. We can become inwardly quiet. We can pray according to our beliefs. Subtle distinction here. We can temporarily release the mental argument that we have been repeating all day. We can become willing to receive the help. We can become willing to change. And that last point is of ultimate importance. Sometimes we ask for relief while remaining deeply attached to the same habits, resentments, and behaviors that contribute to the suffering. We want peace, but we continue feeding the conflict. We want emotional balance, but we revisit the same injury every night in every opportunity. We seek spiritual assistance, but we do not want spiritual transformation. The past, the healing, cannot be reduced to a moment of receiving energy, while the rest of life remains untouched. The past may offer support, but what do we do with that support? Imagine now someone who has been rescued from deep water and they are taken away and placed safely on the shore. So for a few minutes, they breathe, they rest, they recover, they get calm, but then they deliberately walk back into the same dangerous current. The rescue was real, the help was real, the relief was all real, but the person must still decide what they do next. In the same way, the past may give us a moment of equilibrium. It might be that rescue that will be just a reset for an opportunity of reset for us. It might help us regain clarity, strengthen us, but afterwards, we still need to make choices. We make decisions. We still need to live our lives. Do we return immediately to anger? Do we continue to destructive habit? Do we repeat the same cruel words? Do we continue treating our own body carelessly? Ignoring medical advice? Or are we using that moment of assistance as the beginning of a new direction? Receiving the past is not passive. It is a form of responsibility. The past can be seen as a meeting point. There's another metaphor here that when I found it, I thought was very, very nice. The past is a meeting point. We might picture the past as a bridge. On one side is the human need. On the other side is a possibility of assistance. The past giver helps maintain the bridge. Prayer gives direction. Spiritual helpers contribute according to the Spiritist understanding. The recipient chooses whether and how to cross. But no one owns the bridge. No one can guarantee what will be found on the other side. This is why promises of cure are incompatible with responsible spiritual practice. The past giver does not know everything taking place within another person. They do not know the complete history of that specific spirit. They don't know the physical, emotional, spiritual causes behind that specific problem, right? They don't know what form of assistance is possible at that moment. How much of it needs to come from the spiritual support? How much of it can be a pure, vital exchange? They offer help without announcing an outcome. This humility is not weakness. It is an ethical safeguard, right? I have a question for us again. When you comfort someone who is grieving, do you expect to remove their grief completely? No. You sit with them. You may reduce their sense of isolation. You may help them survive the next hour, get through. You may help them clear their minds for a moment. You may remind them that love still exists. You may give them strength to continue. The grief may remain, but something has changed. Isn't this already a form of healing? I want us to think about the past in the same way. The same thing may be true about it. We should not measure its value only by asking, did the disease disappear? We might also ask, did they find peace? Did their fear diminish? Are they feeling supported now? Have they gained strength to continue the treatment that they started? Are they feeling a bit more hopeful? Is there clarity around the decision they made? Are they feeling less alone? Even though the physical cure might be the ultimate desire, sometimes might be reported, but it's not the only meaningful form of assistance. This will bring us to the third lesson of the book. And that goes on like this. What does it mean to be healed? Is it the same as cured? Let's consider these two questions. Can someone be cured without being healed? What about the other way? Can someone be healed without being cured? Let's go again. Imagine someone with an infection. They receive a treatment. The infection disappears. They are medically cured. But perhaps they remain bitter, frightened, isolated, unable to find meaning in life. Something was cured, but the whole person may not yet feel healed. Let's look at a different image. Somebody living with a chronic or incurable condition. The illness remains, but over time, they reconcile with their family. They release an old resentment, they forget, forgive something in the past. They rediscover purpose. They become able to receive love. They stop living in terror. The disease is still there, has not been cured. But can we say that no healing has taken place? If you think about it, you can probably find people that you know in your life that fit in those examples. This distinction is essential, is super, super important. Cure usually refers to the removal of a disease or a symptom. Healing can mean a move towards greater integration, peace, inner equilibrium. Sometimes cure and healing happen together, sometimes they don't. The book's perspective invites us to review health in a more holistic way, in more than one dimension. The physical body matters. It might be the initial trigger that takes you to that, to search for that additional help. But the mind also matters. The emotions, the relationships, the spiritual life. It doesn't diminish the importance of the body, but it enlarges our understanding of the person. Right. Here, I would like to highlight something, a very important boundary, that the spiritual path or healing should never be presented as a replacement for medical care. We've been talking about how all of these aspects and spheres come together. Spiritual healing should not replace medication, it should not replace surgery, it should not replace psychological or psychiatric treatment. A responsible path giver will not diagnose illness, it will not advise somebody to stop a treatment, they do not claim that faith makes professional care unnecessary. The right word, the most appropriate word, is complementary. Right? Spiritual support may accompany medical treatment. Prayer may accompany therapy. A path may accompany the care provided by qualified health professionals. And we can be very honest here. Our intellectual advancement, in terms of science, technology, is not there yet for us to fully understand the mechanisms of these other spheres. Studies have been done, but we're still in the beginning of it. As we have seen, there's so many factors that affect these experiences that would be irresponsible to make any other statement than this one. I want to be clear. This distinction is not an attack on faith. Faith doesn't need any type of exaggeration. Spirituality that is afraid of honest question becomes fragile. Quoting Kardec here, he himself proposed a faith capable of facing reason. So do not need to pretend that every mystery has already been resolved. We can remain open without becoming careless. We can be respectful without being uncritical. We can value the experiences, the multiple experiences, without turning every single one of them into proof, absolute proof. The past involves something that cannot easily be seen. And whenever a practice involves invisible claims, ethics becomes especially important. A person receiving spiritual treatment or past, they may be vulnerable, they may be ill, frightened, grieving, they may be desperate, they really want an answer for something they've been trying for a long time to find. That vulnerability can never be exploited, it must never be exploited. A responsible practice requires a lot of principles, but those four here are super important. Humility. The past giver is a participant, not the owner of the cure. Simplicity. Past healing process should not become theater. It's not a spectacle. Complicated gestures do not necessarily indicate greater spiritual effectiveness. No. The power, remember, is in the prayer, the thought, the intention. The book's emphasis is ultimately upon a simple, prayerful, and charitable form of assistance rather than spectacle or personal display. Service without payment or personal advantage. Spiritual help should not become a means of creating dependency, admiration, financial exploitation. Third one, respect. The recipient remains a person with dignity and freedom. They should not be touched without any consent. They should not be pressured to believe in anything, in any faith or whatever. No. They should not be blamed if they experience no immediate result. None of that. Respect is of utmost importance. Confidentiality. Within respect, someone's suffering is not a story for the past giver to repeat in order to demonstrate spiritual importance. Right? It's not that sits at the center of respect. Somebody in that vulnerable position needs to be treated with the utmost care that you can. Boundaries, appropriate boundaries. The past giver should not act as a doctor, therapist, or spiritual authority beyond their competence. This is quite strong words. That's on purpose. These principles, they reveal something important. The ethics of past, of healing, laying on of hands, are not separate from its supposed mechanisms. They are part of it. Because if thought and intention influence the quality of what is offered, then humility, compassion, and integrity are not decorative virtues. I'm going to read again. Humility, compassion, and integrity are not decorative virtues. They are virtues that are needed. They are working conditions for somebody who is putting themselves to be able to work with healing, with past, with laying of hands, and so on. The preparation of the past giver. Is it to learn about what to do with their hands? Is that the main thing? No, it goes much, much further than that. It is about learning what to do with oneself. How do I calm my mind? How do I pray sincerely from the bottom of my heart? How do I serve without taking possession of the result? How do I leave my personal prejudice outside of the room? How do I offer care without needing to be admired? I don't think I need to go much further to say that these are much more difficult skills than any movement of hands, right? Let's put just a pause here and reflect. Is the quality of somebody who wants to work or he's working with this, it comes from their commitment to become better people. And they do that by putting themselves available to help others without wanting anything in return, and knowing that they are there just to serve. The work is not theirs. They are just an instrument for it to occur. We are approaching the end. So I want to bring the idea of the past out of the Spiritist Center into ordinary life for us for a moment. Perhaps only some people will formally, let's say, work with healing and past giving, but all of us influence the environment that we enter, right? I want you to consider 3 ordinary scenes. First one, at home. Someone arrives after a terrible day. They bring the tension of work through the front door. They speak harshly. They don't even look the others in the eye. They don't even acknowledge anything outside of what's going on in their minds. The whole house becomes anxious. Nothing visible was thrown into the room, but something was transmitted. Picture that? Now at work, another scene. A leader, a manager, a people manager must give difficult feedback. They can do that with contempt and humiliation, or they can be honest and preserve the dignity of the person receiving that feedback. The information may be the same, but how you're transmitting it and what ends up being received is completely different. Besides someone who is suffering, we may not know what to say. We may not be able to solve the problem, but we can choose not to flee. We can listen. We can calm enough. We can become calm enough not to add our anxiety, our panic, our fears to theirs. We can offer a prayer. We can offer our presence. In each case, something passes from one person to another. In these 3 examples that we saw, at home, at work, and next to somebody in need. Anxiety can be contagious, but calm can also be contagious. Cruelty spreads, but kindness also spreads even further. Despair influences a lot an environment, but hope does it too. This is probably the most challenging lesson in this book from Marlene. We are constantly giving passes of one kind or another, not the formal spiritist laying on of hands, but we are transmitting things to people. We are influencing them with our behavior, energy, thought, intention. We do participate in these transmissions of mood, judgment, patience, agitation, trust, compassion. The question is not whether we influence others. The question is what kind of influence we choose to become. I'm going to repeat this because I remember when I was preparing, I read this, wrote this down a couple of times. The question is not if we influence others. The question is what kind of influence we choose to become. I'm going to make a connection to the preparation to become a worker in the Spiritus Center that gives paths and healing. In theory, my friends, the same preparation that that person goes through to become a better person, to learn how to calm themselves, to use their prayer, to use their intention, that should be all of us, because we are all, one way or another, influencing, sharing all of that with others. The lesson is not just for them, the lesson is for all of us. So I want to invite us here to consider as I get to the end. After people spend time with you, what do they receive? Have they received peace, or have they received pressure? Respect or judgment? Encouragement or discouragement? Hope or fear? No movement of the hands can compensate for a life that repeatedly transmits the opposite of what it claims to offer. No person needs an official role to become a healing presence. I want to finish by returning to the two rooms that we imagined in the beginning. Remember the ones with the medical treatment? Medical treatment, and both rooms was the same, but in one room, the person was treated as a problem to be managed. In the other, the person was treated as a human being worthy of presence, dignity, and hope. Perhaps the deepest invitation of the Spiritist healing is that we learn to become the second room. We become the room, a place where another person can breathe, where they're not going to be judged, a place they do not receive any promises, but they receive companionship, a place where human goodwill makes itself available to divine assistance. The hands matter, but before the hands, there is the mind. Before the technique, there is intention. Before the desire to cure, there must be the willingness to love. I want us to use this last couple of minutes of this conversation to start now, do something a little different. So if you can indulge me and do this exercise with me. Let's take a quiet moment together here. Just take a deep breath, clear your mind, allow your shoulders to drop and relax, and just be in this present. Think of someone who is presently facing difficulty. Do not attempt to control their life. Do not demand a particular outcome. Simply hold them in your thoughts and say inwardly in your mind, may you receive the help that is truly good for you. May you receive strength. May you receive peace. May I never add to your burden. And may I become capable of offering the good that is within my reach. Marlene Nobre's book begins with a question about paths. What is given? How is it given? Who gives? Who receives? Perhaps in the end, the answer is actually an invitation. We give what we have cultivated. We give through what we are. We receive according to many conditions we do not fully understand. And healing begins whenever love, humility, and sincere service find a way to reach someone who is suffering. That's it, my friends. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Rafael. Very, very nice to listen to your presentation. Very enlightening and very, very interesting approach as usual. As I mentioned before, without seeing it before, you see, I know you always give a lot of you in these presentations, and you come with a very nice approach. It's very, very much enlightening. We think that cure and healing is just a question of laying of hands for a certain time, and that's it. But you brought us the whole package. So there's a lot that needs to be done beforehand by all the parts involved and afterwards as well. And as you were talking, what came to my mind was the passage from the gospel when Jesus cured and said to those, basically, yeah, he cured, not healed, and said to those, go and sin no more. So by sinning no more, they would then be healed. Most of them, unfortunately, were not healed.
Yeah.
They developed other disease, so they would need to be cured and hopefully healed. So we see that, and also, the passage where he cured 10, only one came back to express his gratitude to Jesus. The others just went to carry on her normal life back to the condition that made them ill. So very nice, very important what you brought to us, the way you brought to us. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Always my pleasure.
Good. So, Rafael, let's go and make some announcements here. So, I want to invite you all to Spiritual Lights. It's a live broadcast every Wednesday, 9 p.m. UK time. So you also can check your local time, what time it is. It's organized by Stefan Bertoso, Elsa Hossi, Sylvia Gibbons, and Charles Kempf. And they usually have an invited guest. And this coming Wednesday, they will count on Roberto Watanabe from the Spiritist Federation of the State of São Paulo in Brazil. You'll be talking about invisible connections, how thoughts shape ourselves and the world. Very inspiring one. And also, you can relate this to the topic we discussed today, our
Really?
thoughts, and how to shape the process of, giving passes or healing to others, and also receiving it. We also have, I'm pleased actually to announce the 4th International Spiritist Congress, Joana de Angelis. The topic is Overcoming the Pains of the Soul, the Path to Mental Health. It's August between 28th and 30th in Portugal. So all invited. Again, a very interesting topic related to our conversation today. I also want to announce the 9th European Spiritist Gathering that will take place in Vegemont in Belgium between the 18th and the 20th of September. Again, all invited to get more information. And if you can, please join them. I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful event. I also want to invite those who are interested in studying the Mediums book. We have an online study group every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. UK time. It's organized by Charles Kempf, Guilherme Diaz, and myself. All invited. It's a study group. You join. It's in Zoom platform. You join the study, and it's open to make your comments, ask questions, and so on. So it is very interesting, a good opportunity to get to discuss all the aspects of this book, the Medium's book. You have the ID and the passcode for the Zoom platform, and also you can use the QR code to join us. Open to everyone, no enrollment necessary. Just come and join us every Saturday, 10:30. I also want to invite you to our Genesis book study. I coordinate the study. Again, it's a study group every Wednesday, lunchtime from 12 to 1 p.m. We study the book Genesis by Allan Kardec. Again, you have, you're all welcome to come and join us. You can also check on the British Union and British Society's websites to get more details. Also, I want to invite to go to the site and check the Spiritist magazine. You have the address here. It's wonderful. It's full of very, very interesting articles. So, it's worth checking their websites. And finally, we want to thank Kardec Radio. Kardec Radio is our partner, more than partners. Also, people at Kardec Radio, they are our true friends, and we collaborate with them since the very beginning of this project for many years now. And we want to thank them from the bottom of our hearts. And next month, we'll have the first Sunday of the month. We will have another talk on this series. That's going to be the 6th of September. So all invited to come and join us. So, Rafael, your final words before we end the program today?
Yeah, I just want to say another thank you to you, to Elsa, for the invitation. And I just want to highlight that this book reminds us that the teachings that Jesus already brought to us. I love that you brought the examples about the gospel, because none of these is new. And it's like, oh, this is the Spiritist way of thinking. This is trying to bring some clarity for, in reality, knowledge that has been already given, presented to us with examples in practice by Jesus. And at the core of it, no matter, there's no way to hide. At the core of it is the inner transformation that we need to go through for whatever issue that we might face in our lives. Right? Sometimes we talk about illness, when you talk about cure, but it's for anything that you're facing in your life. So unfortunately, there's no running away from it. And that's why it feels so hard, but we can do it.
Yes, you are totally right, Rafael. We get to know more about the fluids, the processes, we'll master the techniques, but at the end of the day, it is the power of our heart, of our sentiments, of our personal development that will count the most in this whole process. Sometimes just hugging someone will do even more than learning all the techniques and so on, if we don't have these the beautiful heart to offer to those who are receiving healing. And that's the basics of healing is an act of love as well, and we need to develop that within us in order to be able to offer to those.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much once again. Thanks for your time spent preparing it. You have a very busy life with almost toddlers, yeah, at home, and
young children, but
yeah, very young. So yes, thank you so much, Rafael, and hope to see you soon in another series. So, and also we have in December, the last month of the year, we have a gathering. Hopefully you can come and join us. It will be a great pleasure. And thank you all very much for being with us, for watching, and hope to see you next month first Sunday of the month, same time, 7 p.m. UK time. So from us, thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Bye bye, everyone.